Good morning, Jacob here. We did Psalm 20 this morning, and now I want to jump in by faith into Psalm 21 and share a few things that are surfacing for me in the heart. I'm finding in first 20 Psalms that most of them are written by David, and he's always describing and sharing the physical things going on around him as um, uh, and connecting them to the things spiritually going on around him, inside of him. And one example would be David's continuous description of a lion. David continually brings up what the different a picture or a painting of what a lion is in his life and what they look like. And we know David killed a lion and a bear, and so he's been very close to what a lion looks like, and he's always fought battles, and so he references his shield all the time, how the Lord is a shield about him. The favor of the Lord is a shield about him. And David is always referencing a shield and a lion. And I love that because he's very well acquainted with what a lion is. And he's no doubt been a warrior, and he knows the value of his shield. And so I've enjoyed those vivid descriptions, physical descriptions. They've been beautiful in my mind, um, and so now I'm jumping into verse or chapter 21, and I'm excited to hear what the Lord wants to speak through this psalm, and this one as well as the Psalm of David, and I'll read verse by verse and jump in. So, verse 1: O Lord, in your strength the king will be glad. David here is saying, in the strength of the Lord, in the strength of in God's strength, the king will be glad. In God's strength, he will be glad. Not in the strength of the flesh and the strength of his own doing. The power of the Lord. We know we have this all-surpassing power in treasures of jars of clay. You know, these bodies are jars of clay. They're nothing more than a clay pot you'd see on a shelf. And the strength and the power that God gives and God pours into a human heart, into a life, makes someone glad. And David here is sharing that. O Lord, in your strength the king will be glad, and in your salvation how greatly will he will rejoice. He will rejoice. It's an inner rejoicing, and it expresses itself through the face, through the eyes, through the actions, through body movements. It has an expression. Rejoicing has an expression, and it's from the inside out. It's not from the outside in. We see that that direction on in examples of I think of like a rock concert where there's a lot coming at us, and it brings an expression and a response, but that it doesn't last. This is lasting. This is start coming from the inside and coming out, and it's a different direction. In verse 2, you have given him his heart's desire, and you have not withheld the request of his lips. David is continually putting petitions and requests before the Lord. And we saw back in Psalm 20, he's praying. Psalm 20 verse 4, he says, may he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all your counsel. And here in 21, we hear answered prayer. And he says, you have given him his heart's desire, and you have not withheld the request of his lips. Notice that you is capitalized as God. God has not withheld the request of his lips. Think about that. God hears the lips of us. Remember, God is spirit. And think about how tiny we are in this galaxy, in this universe. Like, extremely tiny. We're just one little speck, and then we're a speck on a speck that's on a speck. It's like, but God cares enough, and he's so intimately involved. He hears the breath of our lips. I'm reminded of the woman, forgive me the name, it'll come to me in a minute, but the gal who presented, she was thought to be drunk, in the Bible, the woman in the Bible, she was thought to be drunk by the priest because she was uttering lips. Samuel's mother, was uttering her prayer to the Lord with her lips, and doing it quietly. And God received her prayer and gave her a son. She was requesting a child, and everyone thought she was drunk and shamed her. And she says, "No, no, no, no! I'm just pouring out my heart to the Lord, and I'm not drunk at all." And they figured out that she was telling the truth, and what she was. And God answered her prayer and gave her son Samuel. And there we have 1st and 2nd Samuel, and we have that the man Samuel in our lives through the Word. And it's just beautiful how even if it's not aloud, God still is intimately connected and hears what's being spoken. And David is saying, "You have not withheld the request of his lips. You've answered it. You've received prayer." God answers prayer. God receives and hears what our lips speak to him, just like a little child would. And that's really encouraging for me to remember that we can just spew it out. And verse 3, "For you meet him with the blessings of good things. Every good and perfect gift comes down from above, from the Father of lights." In James it says. And God is a giver. He's not a taker. He's a giver. He loves to give. He loves to lavish his gifts on his kids. You know, what kid, if he asks for bread, is given a stone, or asks for a fish and is given a snake or something? You know, if our earthly fathers know how to give us gifts, and they're pretty good gifts, how much more so a heavenly Father? And it says that he gives perfect gifts. Gifts that won't harm us, won't spoil us, won't taint us. They're for our edification. They're to bless us for our enjoyment. And that's what David is saying here. And verse 3, it says, "You've set a crown of fine gold on his head." You know, a crown is something that symbolizes victory. We see that in the Olympics, and how they get, or not now, but you used to get crowns of wreath crowns, and back in Roman days they give them crowns, and we know that the saints that pass this test by faith, this test of this life that we're living under gravity right now, this that's going wrong, will receive a crown. And I want that crown. I want that golden crown. I want that crown. And it says, "You have set a crown of fine gold on his head." Fine gold, not gold that has dirt in it and rocks that aren't gold. Fine gold, gold that's been purified and transformed and put through heat. And it's probably intimately made just for us, the size of our head. I think I'm like 6 7/8. I don't know. I don't have a very big head, but I can't wear the crown of someone else. I don't know. I was just thinking about that. How we have pro-fitted. I love pro-fitted hats and these mesh hats, these old vintage. I've got these awesome. I gotta show you. This is like one of my favorite hats of all time, and I found this at a garage sale for $1. And it's just like this old mesh hat, and it all fits right here, and it's crown. It says Grove, Man Lift, Horizon, High Reach. I don't know. I just really like it. And anyway, speaking of head size and crown size, I'm sure God, if He can hear our lips, He knows exactly how big our heads are. Well, I don't know. Maybe I've got a huge head. So we'll figure that out in the days to come. Verse 4, He asked life of you, you gave it to Him. How many of us are asking for life? God, give me more abundant life. Give me more of your life. God spoke life into existence. God breathed life. He gives life. You know, God sent His own Son. Remember? From above, He sent His own Son into the earth so that we may have life. And we know that the enemy comes up from below and tears everyone down. Much like a dictator rises up and suppresses everyone else. That's the enemy. But God came down from above and raises others up, lifts others up. Love builds up. And David says, He asked life of you and you gave it to Him. Length of days forever and ever. Think about it. The Christian, the one who receives Jesus, gets to live forever and ever. Length of days, forever and ever. And never, never, and never ends. That's encouraging. Clearly, his glory is great through your salvation. Splendor and majesty you place upon him. For you make him most blessed forever. You make him joyful with gladness in your presence. When you're in the presence of God, when you have an intimate relationship with God, just the radiance and the heat and the knowledge and the wisdom and the power and the transforming person of who God is it brings gladness in your heart. It's like uh, early on in my Christian walk, it felt like it was like I was best friends with Michael Jordan or something. Someone you just like, whoa, that's awesome. Well, it's more so with that because Michael Jordan can't change me, and but God can, you know. I hope that makes sense. How when you're in the presence of God and you have a relationship and with God and you're walking intimately with God, God makes that person joyful and gladness, and that gladness sometimes is internal only, and a lot of times it's internal and it exits through the face, it exits through the mouth and the eyes and just a radiance and and how you walk and how you carry yourself. Verse 7, for the king trusts in the Lord, and through the loving kindness of the Most High he will not be shaken. The loving kindness of the Most High is a name for God, and the loving kindness of the Most High allows the king not to be shaken. The king, any king, is under tons of immense pressure from all sides. Pressures of this, rumors of wars, people coming in, petitions, bad counsel, all sorts of stuff. Requests, phone calls, emails, all sorts of stuff. And people wanting attention and so a king is under immense pressure, but the loving kindness of the Most High will not allow him to be shaken. A loving kindness of the Most High steadies a man, keeps a man preserved, keeps a man in check, keeps a man kind. And in verse 8, your hand will find out all your enemies. Your right hand will find out those who hate you. The Lord knows everything about every one of us, about you and me, my friends, my neighbors, the past, saints of old, saints of new, everything. He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. There's nothing hidden from his sight. Nothing. If I go to Sheol, you are there. If I go to the deep, you are there. If I'm out high in the heavens, you are there. There's nowhere that escapes God's presence. In Psalm 14 says, a fool says in his heart, there is no God. The fool lives as if there is no God. But guess what? There is a God. And the reason that a fool is because he's living as if there is no God, which is folly, because his divine nature can clearly be seen, and we're given examples. We're given tons of examples, but one of them is through creation. It's just that, it's creation. This Big Bang theory is just one more ploy of the enemy to deceive people into believing, giving them an excuse to believe that God isn't who he is and it doesn't exist. It's folly. It's absolute folly. And a fool says in his heart there is no God. Psalm 14:1. Check it out. You will make them as a fiery oven in the time of your anger. Remember the fiery oven Nebuchadnezzar was used for the Christians, and it backfired? And the guys who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire, they actually got hurt and killed and famished, or they got burned up, but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't. I think it'll be something like that. The Christian will go through the fire of testing and remain, but the one like chaff, the ungodly will not. I'll let you finish Psalm 21. I hope you're blessed. Talk to you soon. This is Jacob signing out. Bye.